We have Black Foxes with two X's, 9 songs, 42 minutes long. This is their first sort of proper release, and I would call them like bread and butter alternative rock.
Yes, solid alt rock. It reminded me a lot of Preoccupations, an album. One of my absolute favorite albums we've ever reviewed on Audioface to this day. It was about 2 years ago or so. One of the very few albums that made me hopeful for alt rock and rock in general in the future. This reminded me a lot of that, but a little bit different because the songs were a lot longer and a little bit slowed down in regard, but it was still quite good. But anyways, we'll move on to it. Starts off the I Am, which is a little bit shorter piece, and it starts off where it's just a guitar going on, like just going scales back and forth, and then it picks up with the lyrics, drums kick in, and it's like a solid, like easy to listen to rock, which I think is like, it's a good way to explain this album. If you are looking for, if you haven't really listened to rock music much, or maybe you haven't listened to it in a long time and you want to see what's new, this is a perfect album to get you back into it.
Yeah,
and
if you think rock is dead.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think this is a very, very good representation of what can move forward.
Yeah.
So again, I Am, it's like starts off really, really slow and it builds up into this really hard rock thing of like, mixing a bunch of different sounds and again pushing music a little bit more forward, and it's like really gets you upbeat, but it's a perfect short track into the album. And the nice thing with the album is a lot of the songs are very different. There's a lot of slow songs, there's a lot of meaningful things, there's a lot of faster up-paced stuff, there's a lot of really big drums, but none of it is cliche, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah. I fell in love pretty much second song in with Badlands.
Badlands
it's a
hard.
nice, like long, like 8 or 9 minute thing, and it just feels like a full, complete rock song. Like when I fell in love with classic rock in the 70s and 80s, that's part of it's like, of course, the guitars are unmistakable, the drums are nice, the bass and the drums. It's become bread and butter at this point. But the thing with classic rock is that it had a progression to the song that felt like the way you would just compose music generally, where there are parts with flair and parts that are not, where like you tease certain elements of the song that don't appear till later, and you play with the volume very much. It just has all of that in the song very well.
It's a fantastic song. Like I said, there are a bunch of different rock artists. We have Greta Van Fleet, which I like to call it the Led Zeppelin knockoff, even though they do make good music, but they are too stuck into that sound, which is like my one thing I have arc against them. I do enjoy them though. But Black Foxes, I really like. Badlands is a perfect representation of it too, because I enjoy long rock songs a lot. That's what I grew up listening to a lot with. You have Rush would make really long songs. Old Metallica would make really long songs, and so on and so forth. And because the thing with long songs is if you do it right, there's so many emotions that go through it. It feels like you're being told a story the whole way through, and Badlands does that a lot.
And like it feels like, sorry to interrupt a lot, but like it feels like you're listening to a story even without the lyrics is the thing. The song itself progresses naturally.
And it actually reminds me of some of Sigur Rós, because Sigur Rós does make rock too in their older work, like Seglapur. There's a couple songs where it's the crushing guitar in the background, and you have like this gorgeous wave of rock music that goes back and forth. And there's not many people that can make that, and it's good. All right, after Badlands, you have Drug Holiday, which is slowed down, and it has this really like fuzz distortion pedal on the guitar, and it's like a really cool little alt rock thing of just whispering into the mic almost, or like whisper singing into it. It's a slow little piece that then which then goes straight into My Skin Is, and I like that song a lot too. I thought you were gonna say something.
No, I wasn't. Continue if you want, or I can.
Oh no. So by like the middle of the album with Panic, this was the interesting thing with the album is Panic is like almost like putting a Coldplay spin, like a Rush of Blood to the Head style Coldplay into this album, where I'm like, whoa, because the guitar is like this gorgeous little high riff. You have the really understated bass, good drums, good vocals that are a little bit mixed, a little bit oddly, but fun. And I'm like, whoa, okay, because when you hear Badlands and you hear like My Skin Is, that's hard rock, that's hard alt rock, and then you get to Panic, and that's that like perfect sound, which is one of my favorite things. So it's really cool to hear that in the mix of the album, which was what I said at the beginning. I like a lot about it because there's so many different things to pick through.
I like, the nice, easy sort of like scale strumming guitar. I know that's just like a particular, when I think of that happening guitar. I
love it. It's almost...
It's a very Sean thing.
It's almost like mixing Muse, U2, and Coldplay together.
Yeah.
Because you have something similar that's almost like a Musi sound with the drums, you have a Coldplay sound with the guitar, and then you have a U2 sound with the echo in it. So it's a really cool. It's one of my favorite alt rock songs I've heard this year so far, and that's saying something because there's actually been some really good stuff that's been out there. Swim right after that, again, really solid song. Actually, reminded me a bit of Doves with their album that came out, which is a fantastic freaking album that came out a few months ago. It reminded me a little bit of that because you have a really nice skip drum beat into it. The vocals are layered, they're kind of hidden, so you can't really understand too much. And it's like just gorgeous little part of just swim, back and forth, and it like teleports you. And those are my favorite songs when they do that. So the middle of this album, fantastic.
Yeah, it's just, you are spoiled listening to this album of just really nice, inoffensive, but still exploratory alternative rock music. And that's just what I liked about it. It's the best callback of the things I do like about the genre. It's all the little nice flares and things. And they're always just, I had several moments in the beginning, middle, and the end of this album where I just went, huh, that's very satisfying. Namely, near the end of the album, the song Pacific.
Pacific is solid. It's
so
a
good.
Fantastic song.
Reminds me of some of the best of like, there are some songs I remember you didn't like that much on Foles' big ass project from a year or two back. But it reminds me of some of those.
It definitely can. I can see that for sure on that. I like it a lot because it almost reminds me of some old Soundgarden demos I've heard a long time ago. I just can't think of them, where it's almost like the beginnings of shoegaze with Pacific. Yeah. And that's what I really like about it. But it's funny, and then you have the last song, The Diving Bell, is like hard rock song, just to end it of just like fuck everything and just like
which I like, it has that duality.
Which I like that because for album, it's cool because it really is broad in the rock sense, because that's what I've been saying. If you do, there's a lot of different sounds in it. The problem is a lot of bands pick one and they kind of just go full gas with it, which unless you like perfected it, which maybe 5 bands have, you can't really get away with it that much. But if you keep doing different stuff like what Black Foxes have, you can make a fantastic album in 2020. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
I don't know, how old are these guys?
They've had a couple of albums that have come out, some smaller ones. There was I'm Not Well, which came out in 2016.
Okay,
and,
so they're still pretty new.
Yeah.
Relatively new.
Yeah, so definitely from the mid-teens coming together and coming out. It looks like they've got room to grow because this is definitely one of the very limited amount of stuff that I've heard from them before. This is very...
I'm trying to figure out where they're from.
This feels like a big, complete project, as it is, though, for sure. Especially near the end. I wished Pacific and The Diving Bell went together a little bit better as like an ending 2 songs, because then that has that golden album enders that I'm looking for.
Of course, they're freaking English. This makes sense.
Naturally.
But
unfortunately, it didn't quite end that perfectly as I wish it could have. But
no, The Diving Bell was a little long, and I wish it had stopped before the second half of the song. I think it would have been really good.
Even like the last fourth is just like you're repeating the song and you're just like waiting for it to end. Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just like the main part with Pacific is near the middle, it sort of like feels like it fades out and then it comes back for one last thing. Like that's like ending song kind of feeling almost. Maybe
I love songs that do that. It's like it's almost like there's a lot of hidden tracks in song. It reminded me of Yes from Coldplay, which is one of my favorite Coldplay songs because it has shoegaze halfway through that song because it's 2 songs in one where it fades and then boom, it goes into this beautiful thing. It reminded me a little bit of that too. Yeah. So, damn, this is a fantastic album. Thank you for putting it on them because I've never heard of them before.
It was very good. It was one of my, I need a third one.
You need a third one.
In my head, I didn't know Ariana Grande came out, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't have.
Thank Christ you put this on because this is almost like the Horrors, where I've heard of them before, but I had no idea they made a new album, and that was my favorite album that year. Again, one of my favorite albums we reviewed, Preoccupations as well, because I had no idea that they renamed their name because I only know them as Viet Cong.
Yeah.
And I thought they disbanded, so that was cool too. So there are a couple things that we found on Audioface where I'm like, shit, yeah, I'm gonna be listening to this for a long time.
It's crate digging. You're like in the record stores that are currently no longer in business. Amoeba in Hollywood's finally gone. Ripperoni. But
rip, man, I loved Amoeba.
Yeah, you're crate digging. You find something, you're like, oh, this is interesting. You play it and you actually accidentally love it. It's one of the fun things we do here. Arbitrary Scale. This is Nate Silver 2016 from the perspective of a Republican.
No, this is just everybody blaming him for it, just for my own laughs, but on the good end because we told you so.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's Nate Silver angrily going, no, but wait, I was only talking about probabilities, I didn't say.
I didn't say it was a for sure. 65-35, Bernie would have won.
Bernie still would have won.
And